Canada just recently dropped the requirement for people entering the States and coming back to Canada to have the PCR test. It's been very, very tough since the start of COVID to have that interaction between, especially border cities, Windsor, Detroit, people who used to go back and forth all the time. Now it's getting a little bit easier. But what is going on between Canada and the United States? David Mulroney was not our ambassador to the United States. He was our ambassador to China. But he knows all about border crossings. He joins me right now because I want to prevail upon you for your thoughts. Because now we're making it a bit easier to come back from the States. But the States seemingly doesn't want to have that much to do with us because they're saying buy American first, and for security, they've got into a huge big deal with Australia and left Canada out. We used to be there.
That should have been a wake-up call in Ottawa. What's happened is the United States has invited Australia to partner with it and with the UK on Australia developing its own nuclear submarine program. So they would use US technology. That required the United States to unhitch Australia from France, which is not particularly happy. But this is really part of an Indo-Pacific strategy. Why weren't we there? Well, there is a geographic dimension. It's happening in Australia's backyard, and Australia is
but we
local.
used to be one of the Five Eyes. New Zealand, Australia, Britain, United States, Canada.
We should have been there, but we haven't brought anything to the table for a long time. If you don't show up with equipment, you don't really get invited to a tryout in this case.
Oh, you mean they don't like our World War II pistols that
that's
we use
right.
up north?
So we haven't been part of that conversation, and we haven't been investing in our relationship with the U.S. in other ways. And there's fault on the American side, but we have an interest in thinking about this. The kind of ecosystem, across borders where communities and family relationships develop over time. The Chinese always assumed that Canada did the bidding of the U.S., that it was a power relationship, because that's how they see their neighbors. They don't understand that the relationship has a power dimension, but it's a people-to-people relationship of profound value. And if we don't invest in it and keep it going, and it requires more work on our side probably than it does on the U.S. side,
we were the ones putting up the blocks during COVID, not so much the States.
And I don't think it's too far to suggest that our not investing in it has an international dimension, that we're not thought of when it comes to things like alliances in the Pacific, alliances that will matter. And it's Canada that will need those alliances as much and more than the U.S. does.
And we need those, not only those alliances to have any impact on the world events, but also on our economy. For a car, they used to say a few years ago, to go back and forth between Detroit, maybe sometimes 20 times to be made. Now, it could be all made in the States.
And, that's at the macro level. At the micro level, think of all the small businesses all along the border, on both sides of the border, that are suffering because of that closure. And it really doesn't seem to have been top of mind too often for Ottawa or for Washington. But it's our job to make sure that it is top of mind in Washington, and we don't seem to be able to do that anymore.
Well said, David Mulroney. 3 minutes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for subscribing. Independent thought, that's what we need. So, some people say, though, 3 minutes is just perfect. I can sit on the toilet in the morning. I like it. However, others say, I'm busy to sit and watch. For that, we now have the podcast. So wherever you subscribe to podcasts, you can go through and just go to a podcast, Canadian Politics. There it is, the LeDrew 3 minutes. You don't have to watch me. You can just hear me and hear the guests.